Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. And here we are with again another article, another editorial of the Hindu of the 5th January. I'm taking the first editorial and we'll be discussing, as we always do, we'll be discussing the central idea, how to extract the central idea along with understanding the vocabulary that you might find a little difficult, right? So, how to understand, even if we do not know the literal meaning of the word, we can understand the meaning of the word from the rest of the sentences that is preceding it and following it, or from the overall passage, right? So, let's see how we can get into that habit of understanding the words too. So, mixed signals is the heading here. Manufacturing has gained momentum, but inflation still a concern. That is the subheading. So we at least get an idea of what the whole passage is about. It's talking about manufacturing, which is on the rise, gain momentum, and it is talking about the inflation, which is still a concern. That means the manufacturing is increasing and inflation is also there. Directly proportional, nahi hai, but still both are on the rise. So recent macroeconomic data, including the official index of 8 core industries for November and S&P Global Survey-based Purchasing Managers Index for the manufacturing and services sectors for December, offer mixed signals on the underlying momentum in the economy. That means it gives us an indication, but not a very clear indication about what is going on. And it is a mixed one, according to the author, as he gave in the heading also. Now, see how you can actually extract the GK also from this, that we'll do later. That is something that you are doing in your other exercise also, the daily GK thing, right? But here also 8 core industries. 2 days back also we had come across this word 8 core industries. So you should know and note it down in your notebook also what the 8 core industries are. Okay? S&P is the Standard and Poor, that is the credit rating agencies that we have. So the government's provisional data show that output across the core industries spanning coal to electricity grew by an average 5.4% year on year in November. Double-digit expansions in cement, coal, electricity, and steel. Now, see, I'm not underlining coal and electricity because I've already done that in the previous sentence. This shows that what I'm doing is I'm marking those core industries. Coal, electricity हो गया, cement है, steel है, तो at least चार तो पता चल गई. Let the index higher. However, on a sequential basis, contractions in 6 of the 8 sectors, including in the heavyweight sectors of electricity and refinery products, so this is another refinery products, which together represent almost half the index, kept average core output unchanged. Right? That means, see, there are contractions in a few sectors out of those 8 core industries, and there is a momentum in the other core industries. So it is actually becoming neutral or balanced out. This is what the problem is. This is what the take of the author is, that see, manufacturing has gained momentum, but then it is still not being seen there. The inflation is still there. So they together represent almost half the index, kept average core output unchanged. While electricity output shrank 2.1% from October, refinery products contracted by 3.1% sequentially. Only production of coal and cement expanded both year on year and month on month, signaling that non-power demand for coal and construction activity may have begun gaining some traction in the third fiscal quarter. Okay, now see what the author is giving you is the data. He's giving you a point and then the data, consolidating his point. Again, he gives a point and then gives the data. So the first point was that this the official 8 core industries, they are gaining momentum, but not all. Second point was that there are contractions in at least 6 of these 8 sectors, and where and how much the contraction is, that is being given. So here gives the point. Here you have the data. That is reasoning. Again, if you remember, we have done this point, reason, example, and point in the previous article also, where you need to apply this. So automatically you will be able to filter out, okay, fine, this is a point, that means directly given by the author. So that becomes the cream of the passage that will be included in the central idea. the main idea of the from the point of view of the author. The rest will be the data that is giving you only working as a strengthener, you can say, or consolidating the point given by the author. So this is the reasoning. Another point, sub point was here that there are contractions in 6 of the 8 sectors. Again, it is giving you the data here, right? So you can understand the word contract, this traction also. Traction is the pull, right? Remember the word attract. Contract is coming together and reducing. That is contracting. Attracting is pulling. तो ट्रैक्शन तुम तो बाइक्स और कार्स के इसमें भी कर लेते हो ना, and in the vehicles also. So they have begun gaining some traction in the third fiscal quarter. Now, the uptrend in cement is heartening as consumption of the key building materials spans the job-intensive housing and infrastructure segments, and if sustained, could help undergird broader economic momentum. Now, see, when he comes up with if sustained means it's a case, right? In the case is he is coming up with this uptrend, that is the gaining momentum in the cement. This indicates that yes, it is a good point, a good indicator of what? Of the increasing job intensive housing and infrastructure segments. With this, the economic momentum is also going to be sustained or increased. So what is he seeing कि अगर सीमेंट का यूज ज्यादा हो रहा है तो इसका मतलब हुआ इन्फ्रेंस, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि हाउसिंग एक्टिविटीज ज्यादा हो रही है, हाउसिंग एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेगमेंट्स में देयर इज ग्रोथ. This indicates that there would be economic momentum further or in the near future also. So again, he gives us a point. P stands for the point. Now, the 12.3% year on year and 15.1% sequential expansion in coal output is also a positive augury as it indicates an improvement in availability of the fuel to fire captive power plants and furnaces in the crucial process and metal making industries. So, why and how that core usage is increased? What does it indicate? ठीक है, तो ये ऑथर जो डेटा है उसके हिसाब से वो आगे इसका इंडिकेशन क्या होता है एंड हाउ दिस इकोनॉमिक मोमेंटम वुड कंटिन्यू, that is what he is showing. So we can understand the meaning of the word augury. Augury is something that speaks good, it augurs well. एक पॉजिटिव वर्ड है, इट ऑगर्स वेल का मतलब होता है एक पॉजिटिव इंडिकेशन है कि नियर फ्यूचर में बहुत अच्छा कुछ होगा. ठीक है. So metal making industries they are working now. So separately, the more up-to-date December PMI data show that manufacturing momentum strengthened appreciably as businesses reported the fastest rise in new orders since February 2021. Again, this is a positive one. It strengthened appreciably. The private survey of purchasing managers at about 400 manufacturers signaled that average output growth across these firms hit a 13-month high last month with a PMI reading of 57.8, pointing to the strongest sectoral expansion since October 2020. Right? So this part again gives you a data, but what is the point established by the author is that there is momentum in all these sectors. So producers of goods stepped up hiring to help them meet a backlog of orders. Stepped up hiring इसका मतलब लोगों को ज्यादा लोगों को jobs मिलने लगी हैं, right? And though the increase in jobs was the slowest since September, employment across the sector rose for a 10th straight month, reflecting the heightened optimism among manufacturers. Now you can see how we are getting the points. First, there was a momentum build up in those core industries, but then he gave one thing, a little deviation where he said that see, it is not equal in or uniform in all the core sectors, but there are a few contractions in the sectors and there are a few sectors where there is a good momentum, right? That means everything is almost being balanced out. But then where there is an increased usage of all these core sectors, for example, he gave the example of cement, he gave the data also, and what does this indicate? उसने ये कहा. Then he gave us the increased use of coal and the indication of it. Then he came up with the manufacturers. Then he says that see they are hiring more people. And what does it indicate? the increase in the employment, right? And the increased optimism in the manufacturers. तो ज्यादा लोगों को जब वो एम्प्लॉय करेंगे, रिक्रूट करेंगे, इसका मतलब आगे उन लोगों की का यूसेज है, इसका मतलब आगे भी डिमांड चलती रहेगी मार्केट में. दैट इज द ऑप्टिमिज्म दैट दे कैन अंडरस्टैंड, right? So the PMI survey shows that overall output charge inflation across the private sector has intensified, with manufacturers reporting inflation in selling prices outpacing the gains in input costs for the first time in almost 2.5 years. That means the inflation in selling prices is also being increased. So policymakers can ill afford to drop their card. अब ये जो line है, this is what the author gives as a little warning that the policymakers should not take all this very lightly. That means ठीक है, अब तो बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है अपना इकोनॉमी, तो ठीक है थोड़ा सा लैक्स हो जाओ, नहीं कर सकते. They can't drop their guard. To drop their guard would mean to relax a little, कि ठीक है, to become a little complacent, वो नहीं कर सकते हैं. Why? Because of the inflation. So they can ill afford to drop their card on inflation at this stage. मतलब उन्हें उस इन्फ्लेशन पे थोड़ा सा ज्यादा ध्यान देना ही पड़ेगा, उसे इग्नोर या निग्लेक्ट नहीं कर सकेंगे. So he came up with all the positive, he came up with the optimism, and then he gives a little slight indication that see, the policymakers have still to be wary of what about the inflation, about how it is increasing or how much it is increasing, right? So now if you get questions on such a passage, you will be able to mark all the answers correct because you have understood the major point. One, that the core sectors have gained momentum, the manufacturing has gained momentum. It is not uniform in all the sectors. There is contraction in maybe 6 out of 8 sectors. Then it is being balanced out. Ye ho gaya hai. Then he said that, see, he comes up with the examples of the increased use of coal. What does it indicate? He comes up with an example of increased use of cement. What does it indicate? Indication is that there is the optimism, increased optimism in the manufacturers. They are giving or hiring more people. So what does it indicate? Then he comes up with that small caveat. He says that, see, the inflation is also increasing and there is inflation increase in the selling prices are increasing. That means the policymakers should be wary or should be cautious of this rise in the inflation. They cannot ignore it. So whether you have questions in the RC, whether you have questions such a passage in your critical reasoning, वहाँ पे assumption हो सकता है, वहाँ पे inference वाले question आ सकते हैं. So you'll be able to understand and mark these answers correctly. Right? I hope you have understood how to come to the major point of this, of any passage. Start filtering out, and that is what we are doing, no, daily. Now, apart from this, I've got a small passage for you. ठीक है, छोटा सा है, बस इतना सा एक न्यूज था कल के न्यूज़पेपर में, हिंदू में, राइट? So it is quite a good one. See, orange alert issued as city logs season's lowest at 4.4 degrees centigrade. अब दिल्ली सिटी है, वहां पे 4.4 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड है, so the government has given an orange alert. But then what is this orange alert? This is what you should be searching. If you do not know, search. तो alerts पता चलेंगे कि वहां पे 4 होते हैं. ग्रीन अलर्ट होता है, ऑरेंज होता है, येलो होता है, रेड होता है. ठीक है, and all this depends on the temperature, right? It is more than 15 degrees, चलो ठीक है. Then it is 10 degrees to 15 degrees, ये एक अलग अलर्ट होता है. फिर it is between 5 to 10 degrees, ये दूसरा अलर्ट होता है. And below 5 degrees is the red alert. Now what does this alert indicate also? Red alert means चलो you have to go into action, कुछ ना कुछ तो करना है. ऑरेंज अलर्ट मतलब बी प्रिपेयर्ड, ऐसा होने वाला है नियर फ्यूचर में, वेदर और बिगड़ने वाला है, तो यू नीड टू बी अवेयर, बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट. येलो अलर्ट इज ओनली गिविंग एन इंडिकेशन कि ठीक है, अभी माहौल थोड़ा सा चेंज होता जा रहा है, ऐसा लगता है कि सीजन बिगड़ने वाला है, वेदर बिगड़ने वाला है, राइट? ग्रीन अलर्ट इज ओके फाइन, तो ग्रीन तो वैसे ही सिग्नल होता है. अच्छा, सो यू शुड सर्च फॉर दिस, यू शुड नो अबाउट दिस. So, and such small passages also, small paragraphs also, a small bit of news also will give you many words, maybe. So in this way, you can come up with the theme-based words. This is another way of how to do your vocabulary. ठीक है, अभी इतनी ठंड है, कई सारे में एक जैसे बोले शीतलहर, दैट मीन्स द आइसी वेव, और इट इज जस्ट अ कोल्ड वेव दैट इज गोइंग थ्रू in many of the cities. But when you read such bits of news, you will get words related to the climate. You will get words in such a way. See, numbing cold, right? So numbing cold मतलब numb का मतलब होता है एकदम सुन्न हो जाना है, हाथ उंगलियां सुन्न हो जाती है ना, ज्यादा देर तक बर्फ हम हाथ में पकड़ते हैं तो वो सुन्न हो जाती है, तो that becomes your fingers have gone numb. So this is numbing cold. Gripped Delhi on Wednesday with the day temperature settling several notches below normal. Several notches below normal मतलब normal में जितना होता है 10 to 14 degrees in the winter season, तो several notches मतलब levels, right? We usually say that his work was a notch higher than his predecessors. तो एक level ऊपर था. So several notches below normal and the minimum temperature plunging to 4.4. Plunging means going down rapidly. Even if you do not know, you can understand the several notches below. इसका मतलब वो temperature कम होता जा रहा है. तो फिर plunging downward ही होगा. Plunging to 4.4 degrees Celsius, the season's lowest, making the national capital colder than Dharmshala, Nainital, and Dehradun. As frosty winds, so we know frost, we know frosty winds, numbing cold. ठीक है, ये numbing becomes an adjective, frosty becomes an adjective in this manner. From the snow-clad Himalayas, snow-clad mountains होता है ना, snow-clad Himalayas. तो यहाँ पे snow-clad भी एक adjective बन गया Himalayas को describe करने के लिए. Barreled through the plains, including Delhi, the cold snap is expected to strain power grids and pose challenges to homeless people. The Meteorological Office has issued an orange alert for Delhi NCR for the next 2 days. At least 19 trains to Delhi were delayed due to the foggy weather. So you get frosty winds, you get foggy weather, you get orange alert, and you get numbing cold. ठीक है, छोटा सा article. So when you're reading the newspaper, you can just glance through these and underline, write down the difficult words as soon as you read the bit. So that's all for today. See you tomorrow with another bit of news, another bit of exercise. So thank you. $18.